go, friends. This is part 4-ish / extras of a couple of different things you could add to your pumpkin if you would like to. It could be done the way it is after you've watched all 3 parts, or we could still add 2 more options for those of you that are interested. So with your water, paper towel, palette, and your paintbrushes, we can add a few more steps to make this even more festive. Like I said, it could be finished. I'm going to actually add another little kind of plant growing out of it, more of like a little kind of cat's tail, the little like fluffy white balls that are kind of growing up and out that are more of a fall-based flower, or you can leave it as it is. So I'm gonna do a little bit of the same, where I'm going to be using my green, but I'm adding a little bit of water into it so that it makes it a little bit more like an ink. And in between my green and my brown here, I'm going to mix a darker shade, just so I have it for when I need it. And if I kind of put it in the middle, then it allows me to add more green to make it more green, add more brown to make it darker, and I have a little bit more free range over the color choices and mixing. So I'm going to be actually like twisting my brush a little bit while I'm working, and I'm going to kind of create these in some of the spots where there's not as much happening. So I'm going to start back here, and I'm gonna create, instead of just being really swooping, I'm gonna create this to be a little bit more kind of jaggedy, because we're going to have some shoots coming off of them. So it's actually gonna have a few little extra like branches or kind of extra areas almost that we're going to be able to add some of these pieces into. With whatever you do, you always want this a little wider where it attaches to your plant and a little skinnier at the edges. That's how things naturally grow. And I'm going to add another sprig coming this way. I watered it down just a little bit so it's a little more flowing. And you can add as few or as many sprigs as you want. It's totally up to you. Or you could choose after watching this video to not even do any of it. Try to be confident in that brush stroke. Step here, I'm actually still going to continue to lay out where I'm putting these. I'm going to do one more down here where this is kind of open. And I'm just kind of making these branch off into the areas where there's emptiness. That's how I'm deciding where to put them and where to not worry about it. I have a lot of greenery over here. Well, maybe I'll do one more. I'm gonna add a little white to my green, just so it's a little lighter. I'll do one more sprig over here kind of on top, just to make it fun. A little depth to it. A little tricky because I want my shade of green to be different than what's behind me. Okay, so we're gonna make these just have like a little bit of a white fluffiness to them. And I'm going to use this brush for it, and I'm actually going to use it more in a way of I'm kind of stamping. You could do it white, you could mix it in with this beige a little bit and have some that are more white, some that are more beige. You could always practice out here, but I'm really just going to do a little kind of stamp like this, so it's almost like my fingerprint. Or I could even take it and give it a little pull, but I just don't want it to be too long looking, too elongated. You could also be flipping your canvas at any point in time too, so that you're not working on top of wet area. So I'm gonna put one at the tip, and I'm just gonna work some like this. And I could do a lot or a little. And I'm gonna put those on every top part. I'm gonna get, I don't have tons and tons of paint on, but it's enough. And I'm just kind of laying my brush down and pulling it towards me, and that's making it look like that little these are called. I think they're from a pussy willow. I always remember my grandmother having them in her yard. I'm gonna start to turn my canvas because I want to continue that same idea where I'm putting this out and pulling it towards the stem. And I want that to stay the same shape. And if all of a sudden I do it backwards, it won't look the same. Sure why I'm holding this brush the whole time. I can put it down. However many you want is up to you. You might choose to have a lot or just a few, and it might be something that you want to hold away from you too, or kind of look back on. You might find that you have a lot in one spot and then not a lot in another. So just by kind of checking where you're putting these will be a little more helpful. It's okay if you make a mistake. No one's gonna look at your picture and be like, you messed up on that one little flower right there. What a bummer. Else it would have been a really nice project. Oh, careful you don't drag your own finger into your picture. Let me erase that. Just got some white on my brush, or actually I can put a little bit of black on top of that. I just drug part of my white paint into my black buffalo plaid. Don't want that. Be careful of where your hand's going. I just told you to be careful of that, and here I am doing it. Make sure there's no wet paint left on my finger. So again, this is totally optional. You don't have to do it. You might not like it, or you might love it and you're excited about it. You can always practice first on your messy mat. See if it's something you like or you don't like. And then this is really nice because it adds a little bit of layering. So these are actually going in front of your vines. So that really helps to make this look really layered. It adds a lot of depth to it and looks really realistic, which is cool. Like I said, you could add a little beige in here and there if you want, or you could keep it that very stark white. And then after we're done doing these, we're actually going to be working on making it look a little bit more attached to the stem of the plant. I could have put another one out here if I wanted to, but I think I'm gonna leave it empty. So once you have all of the white areas done, we're gonna go back in, and you can use any shade of your green or your darker green, your brownish green, whatever you'd like to do. And you could do it while it's still wet, or you can let it dry. But we're just gonna kind of do these little pieces that just kind of make it look a little bit more attached. So it looks like it's actually growing up and out of those stems. You could even, if you had like a green Sharpie at home, you could even do something with that too. But we're just kind of making it look like it's attached. I'm gonna wipe off. After a while, it gets a little corroded with a lot of white, and it makes it hard to see that there's a difference between the white and your green. So if it starts to get too dark and you can't really, too light with your white, you can't really see the difference. Kind of wipe your brush off, but some of the white mixed in looks neat. You could even do like a area in the middle if you want, but you don't want it to look too like corn on the cob like. So we're just trying to give it a little identity that it's kind of growing up and out of this kind of vining flower. And this is totally up to you if you want to add this part. One of the different examples that I had worked on actually had a word written in the background, but that's because I was working on a piece of wood instead of canvas, so it was a little bit taller. This happens to be on canvas, but if you wanted to, you could add you know, if you wanted to add something like pumpkin spice or fall or something, you could even write it like here. If you wanted to write the word fall, you could do something like that. Or you could keep it empty. You could personalize it by kind of writing a letter on it if you wanted to. Like you could write someone's last name. A lot of times people don't really like their own handwriting when it comes to working stuff in with their art, so it's totally up to you if that's something that you want to add or not. That kind of helps to make it look like it's growing up and out. And I'm gonna get my brush really thin. So I'm gonna kind of clean it really good, get it really thin, and I'm going to just get a little tiny bit of paint, really small, and I'm gonna add kind of these little pieces into it with my brown, just to help give it that look that it's like growing. And it's not perfectly white because it wouldn't be. It would still have some different sprigs of color showing through. Maybe you like it the way it was and you don't want to add any of this, that's okay. But I'm kind of switching in between some browns and some greens just to kind of help give it that little look that it was shaded and growing. You could even double load your brush with some browns and greens. But try to keep it really thin. You don't want it super thick because you don't want it to take over. And I'm just trying to alternate, like kind of dipping in with brown a little bit, then dipping back in with green, and kind of switching in between. Try not to make it look like corn on the cob. It's a little tricky though. Sometimes it wants to look like that. I could also have like mixed up some different shades of browns if I wanted, and different shades of greens, so I didn't just switch in between kind of the two same colors here if I didn't want to. And something you could also do would be to add more of these little swoopy sprigs too. Those are pretty fun. I'm sure that's the technical term for it, is swoopy. You could even, if you wanted to, you could even resurface the idea of dry brush that we talked about, and you could give this like a little bit of a dry look to it. Instead of having a lot of paint on your brush, you could have just a little bit, and you could try to make it look like there's just a little shading happening in there, not too much. I'm gonna do one more sprig. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it so it glides. Right here because I feel like this is empty, so I'm going to have this coming up and out. And I'm going to take it right off the edge and go back in with a little bit of white. And I think I'm done. Please, 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 if you followed along, definitely subscribe to our page for more. Like and follow us, and make sure that you tag us on social media with your beautiful picture. Thanks so much. I can't wait to see it.